The Black Knight Zelgius is one of, if not the most complex character in all of Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn. He was born into an impossible situation that led to a lonely childhood, which gave him a strong desire for companionship, but also put a massive chip on his shoulder. He needed to prove his worth. He wanted to be recognized for more than his heritage, and he longed to find a purpose. Zelgius was born in Dane, a country known for its strong prejudice against the shape-shifting Laguz. According to Jill, a young woman who defects to the Crimean army, the first thing children in Dane schools are taught is to hate Laguz. This made life very difficult for a child such as Zelgius, who, he himself, had Laguz ancestry. In the world of Tellius, it is seen as immoral for a human Beorc to marry or have children with the Laguz. It is said to be against the will of the goddess. Those who are products of such a union are referred to as branded. These branded individuals are born with a mark on their skin that proves their ancestry. However, not everyone in a family line will receive this brand, but Zelgius did. From the time he was a young child, he could recognize the hate everyone had for him.
This cursed thing, I'm an outcast from my family. I joined the military to escape the shame and hatred in their eyes.
It was in the military that Zelgius found his place. He was tremendously strong and swift with the blade. He had the pleasure of learning from the greatest swordsman of all time, Gawain. Under his tutelage, Zelgius learned the skills to become one of the fiercest warriors in the world. After some time in the military, Zelgius began to fear that those he served with would figure out that he was branded. This led to a conversation with Sephirin, who told him there was no way to remove the brand. So due to his fear of being discovered and Sephirin's offer of companionship, Zelgius left the Dane military with a new purpose. He would help Sephirin on his quests, but he also had his own personal agenda that would be the focus of the rest of his life. As part of Sephirin's plan, Zelgius took on a new identity as the Black Knight. He gained favor in the eyes of the king of Dane, Ashnard, and became one of the 4 highest-ranking generals in the military. It was around this same time that Ashnard decided to invade Crimea, which is the country where Grail, formerly known as Gawain, and Grail's son Ike lived. It also just so happened that Grail had something in his possession that the king of Dane wanted as well, Lairon's medallion. So this led to the perfect opportunity for Zelgius to prove that he had risen above the brand that marked his skin. He was worth more than what his family had thought of him. And by defeating his old teacher, who he thought was the best swordsman in history, he would prove that.
Is that all there is? No challenge? No resistance?
As Zelgius drew his blade from Grail's abdomen, he whispered, "Is that all there is? No challenge? No resistance?" This line implies that he was looking for more of a fight. It shows that he was disappointed. It was obvious that he was not fighting Grail at his strongest. And it is this line from Ike later that proves the Black Knight's doubts were true. My father robbed himself of using his strong arm. If he had, he would not have lost to the likes of you. If we consider that Zelgius is acting based on the realization that he had not truly overcome the master he once knew, it can explain why he never goes out of his way to attack or kill Ike. There are 3 different times in the story that Ike canonically fights Zelgius in Path of Radiance. The first is the night of Grail's death. In this fight, the Black Knight never uses his sword, though he could have easily killed Ike at that time. He merely knocks him out. This allows time for the King of the Beast Laguz to intervene and force Zelgius to leave. The second time Ike and Zelgius fight is at Delbray Castle in Crimea. This happens much later, when Ike is a trained soldier and the general of the Crimean army. Ike performs a skilled attack, but Zelgius deflects the blow with his magic armor. In this instance, he says, "I claim victory today. When next we meet, bring Ragnall. Without the proper weapon, I grow bored." Then he leaves, when again he could have easily killed Ike. It isn't until the third battle that Zelgius learns officially that Grail had crippled himself. He knew that Grail was not in top fighting shape. So he left Ike alive because he was not satisfied with his victory over his old instructor, and he hoped that Ike would someday prove to be as strong as his father. As the story goes, Ike wins the third battle with Zelgius, avenging his father, but in Radiant Dawn, the Black Knight reappears. When Ike finally had the opportunity to meet him face to face again, 3 years after he had defeated him, this is what was said. "So, you are alive. Somehow I knew it wasn't over." Of course it wasn't over. You were a boy trying to live up to the memory of the greatest swordsman in history. And yet, I was the one who walked out of the castle that day. You have your father to thank for that. When you told me that he had crippled himself, I realized that I had never fought him at all, merely his shadow. What are you getting at? I saw immediately that you were not your father's equal, but that one day you might be. So I did the only thing I could to keep you alive. I let you win. You did, didn't you? I've relived that fight so many times. How could I not have seen it before? You were not yet capable of seeing it, but I had to let you live, so that you could continue to train and perhaps one day be worthy of Gawain's legacy. My armor's blessing is gone. Let us see if that day is today. So the only reason Ike won is because Zelgius was not satisfied with Ike's progress. He didn't see Grail's full might in Ike, but he saw the potential for Ike to become that strong one day. So to truly prove that he had surpassed Grail, and that he was the greatest swordsman in history, he needed Ike to become as powerful as his father. All of this back and forth between Ike and Zelgius culminates in one last battle. No draw, no escape. One wins, one loses. We shall end this. One of us will live, and one of us will die. I'm ready. Goodbye, General Zelgius. Following Ike's victory, this conversation happens. You are stronger, much stronger than before. I have you to thank for that. I grew stronger through our previous fight. Your swordsmanship was fearsome, fiercer and more powerful than any I've ever seen. After our duel 3 years ago, I trained hard, trying to remember all of your skills and techniques. General Gawain was invincible at the time he trained me. To surpass him was my ultimate goal as a swordsman. Was I as skillful as you remember my father in his prime years? Did you see my shadow in his sword? I certainly did, Ike. Thanks to you, I was able to fight my master at the height of his glory days. Black Knight Zelgius, you were my father's killer, and my last teacher. I spent most of my life shrouded in darkness, but my life had meaning. Now I'm certain of it. Zelgius was born a hated individual by no fault of his own. He longed for acceptance and companionship, which he found with Sephirin. He wanted to be strong, as he was taught to be by Gawain. And finally, he wanted to prove himself, which he did with Ike. But it was the unplanned purpose of his life that he ended up being happiest with. He was the final teacher of the strongest Bjork alive. Zelgius lived a tragic life. His desperation for acceptance guided all of his actions, and in the end, he finally accepted himself.